Hi, Scott Orlin with CINEMA-Magazin. A new film is coming your way. It is called The Rental. And now, while he is not exactly starred in the movie, his fingerprints are all over it, directing it, co-writing it. Dave Franco, congratulations. I remember years ago when Jaws came out, the whole ad concept is you'll never want to go back in the ocean again. After seeing this movie, I never want to Airbnb. I never want to rent a property again. Thank you.
I appreciate you saying that. I think that means hopefully the movie worked to a certain extent for you. I promise, though, it was not my intention to take down the home sharing business. It was more just an exploration of just trying to figure out why we subject ourselves to these scenarios where we're potentially putting ourselves in harm's way when we're staying under the roof of a stranger. We don't know who these people are. And also on the flip side, you don't know who you're renting to. And so what's keeping someone from renting a place, making copies of the key, and coming back at a later date?
Now, this is not quite an all-out horror movie, but because it's a thriller as well. I think it's kind of a fusion between the two. But what is your own history with this genre? I mean, obviously, it has to be something that you wanted to gravitate towards to put this project together.
Yeah, I think because most people know me from the comedies I've acted in, everyone's surprised that my directorial debut is a horror film. But as a viewer and as a fan, there's nothing I love more than a smart genre film. You know, a film that really does take the scares seriously, but also prioritizes everything else, the acting, the visuals, the music, the set design, and just really approaches everything in a tasteful way. And it makes me think about recent filmmakers like Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, Jennifer Kent, Amy Seimetz, and they are all making projects that feel very atmospheric, and they take their time to really creep up on you, as opposed to some genre films that just mainly rely on cheap jump scares and ultimately just feel somewhat forgettable.
I'm always fascinated too, especially with a first-time director, of what you want to start the movie shooting. What is your first day? Some want to take the most, logistically challenging aspect, and some just want to glide in easy. Where were you on that spectrum?
We for logistical reasons, we had to shoot away from the house. So, 90% of the shoot was at the house, but we had to go and shoot this scene with Jeremy Allen White and Allison Brie, my wife, on a hike. And it was an interesting first day because we were asking a lot from our Steadicam operator, who we basically had him walking backwards up a pretty steep incline, and we were doing very long takes. And so after a couple takes, he started to feel a little nauseous and actually threw up. And to his credit, he immediately jumped up and was ready for the next take. But it was a ominous start to the whole shoot. And I only tell that story because he is so talented and he's a good sport, and he wouldn't mind me saying it. But yeah, it was like, oh wow, this might be tough.
See, get it out of the way first. That's my attitude.
All uphill from there.
Talk about, you mentioned that a particular actress that you hired as one of your leads. I mean, obviously she's incredibly talented, but what specifically did you need in that part? Because of all, I hate to use the words most normal, but of all the characters, she's the one that has the least amount of flaws to me.
She's the audience surrogate. She's kind of the eyes and ears of the audience, where you can almost sympathize with her and understand her a little bit more than the other characters. But I think the reason why Allison was so perfect for it is because the character has these really heavy moments of drama and just being very grounded and serious. But also there's a long sequence in the latter half of the film where she's on drugs, and it's supposed to be somewhat humorous. And so we need those moments of levity. And so I needed an actor or an actress who could balance both of those kind of conflicting emotions, and sometimes within a single scene. And Allison is just so unique in that way, where she was able to seamlessly kind of go back and forth. And she made a character that in the wrong hands, it could have felt like, just like the type A wife character, but she gave it so much weight. And like you said, you just really relate and sympathize with her.
As important as all the protagonists are in a movie, the one that the audiences are having the most emotional reaction to is the antagonist. And I don't want to give too much away here. I'm going to be really careful. We don't really know. You keep a lot of mystery in that. How important was that sleight of hand, so to speak?
Yeah, it's difficult to talk about without giving too much away. But what I will say is there were earlier drafts of the script where we had this villain character monologuing about why they were doing what they were doing and what their history was and who they were. And it just ultimately felt a little preachy and kind of cheesy. And so we took a step back and realized if we just simplify all of this, I think that it'll ultimately be scarier if it's all a little more ambiguous. And it really just felt more in line with the whole tone of the movie, where we didn't want to start over explaining everything.
And the last question for you, Dave, is obviously with this pandemic and a lot of people are kind of home contained, they're going to watch this movie and have a couple of maybe nightmares afterwards or a little chills. Going back in your adolescence and you growing up, what were the films that kind of infused those images in your head that you couldn't sleep?
It's a good question. The first ones that come to mind are Candyman and It, the original It movie. And when I think about It, you know, Pennywise like comes out of drains, and I remember for like a week after watching that movie. Is it a movie or was it a series cut into two parts? Anyway,
that was a miniseries.
Miniseries. So after watching that, I remember for a week afterwards, I took a shower. I took all my showers in my bathing suit with the door open because I thought he was going to come out of the drain, and I needed, you know, my parents to be able to come save me. And eventually my mom was like, Dave, Pennywise is not real. You gotta close the door. You gotta take off. You gotta just shower like a human again. But that was the one that really stuck with me. And you know, when I was growing up, horror films really scared me. Like I was, you know, one of the worst in regards to that. And over the years, though, I really started to watch more and more and started to realize that they are their own like art form. And I think a lot of people tend to look down on them and regard them as being somewhat schlocky. But I think the best ones truly have as much merit as some of these more serious dramas that are recognized during award season.
Well, I hope that some people will be afraid to take a shower now after seeing your movie. So that would be the highest compliment. Dave Franco,
right. Thank you
so much. The movie is called The Rental, and this is Scott Orlin. Till next time.
Thanks, Scott.